When I first saw the first negative that I took out of the envelope, I immediately knew that it was going to be a collection of extremely powerful and important photographs.
What if a single photograph could rewrite history? In 1965, during the height of the Vietnam War, one soldier posed for what seemed like an ordinary picture. But when experts zoomed in decades later, their faces turned pale. What they discovered wasn't just eerie. It was impossible to explain. Stay with us till the end, because the truth behind this haunting image will make you question everything you thought you knew about the war. The photograph that refused to fade. In the humid woods of Vietnam in 1965, the war seemed to go on forever. A lot of American troops were coming into a green, dangerous land where every sound could mean trouble. Fear, sweat, and smoke filled the air. Soldiers didn't live for days, but for seconds. One picture from those early fights stood out among the many that were taken. It was an ordinary moment that would later become one of the most mysterious pictures in military history. Sergeant William Andrews, a field photographer stationed near Da Nang, is said to have taken the shot. It was easy for him to do his job, to record the brave faces, the violent scenery, and the quiet times between battles. That day, he was taking notes as a patrol came back from a long bush hike. In the picture, there was only one man standing on the edge of a clearing. Behind him, the sun was shining through the trees. At least at that time, there was nothing strange about the moment. Private Daniel Harlow, who is from the 25th Infantry Division, was recognized as the soldier in question. He was dressed in the standard fatigues and had a steel M1 helmet and a bandolier across his chest. His gun was hanging loosely by his side, and he looked calm and almost distant. There was nothing brave or act-like about it. A young guy, maybe 20 years old, was staring off into the distance. He had no idea that this quiet picture would one day lead to decades of questions. The picture was lost in an old military file for many years. Later, a retired scholar who was cataloging records from the Vietnam War scanned it into a digital collection. It looked like any other picture of war at first glance. But when an intern at the museum zoomed in to clean up the scan's edges, a blur that didn't belong showed up in the background. Behind Harlow's shoulder, in the bushes, there was what looked like a different face. It wasn't another soldier. It wasn't even clearly human. The form was off, and the eyes were too hollow. Once the strange thing was noticed, experts tried to come up with a reason for it. Some people thought it was a trick of the way the jungle let light through. Some said it was the shadow of a leaf that had dropped or a problem with the camera. But the more people saw it, the less sense it made. When the picture was improved, the face became disturbingly clear, pale, sunken, and looking straight at the camera. This didn't match the way the sun was shining or the way the soldier was looking. Also, early reports showed that no one was standing there when the picture was taken. Years later, when a military history blog posted the picture, the internet was full of ideas. Every pixel was looked at by amateur photographers, paranormal investigators, and even retired soldiers. Some people said it was a ghost of the jungle, a soul from one of the thousands of people who died in that forest and were never found. Others thought it was proof of secret activities, which made it seem like Harlow's unit might have found something secret that the government wanted to keep hidden. Some doubters said it was due to double exposure or film degradation, but that explanation didn't hold up when experts checked the negative. It was clean, not touched. As people argued in online forums, one idea gained support. A group of digital analysts looked at old soldier records from the same section and compared the strange face to those records. What they found was scary. The fuzzy figure looked a lot like Corporal James Rowe's face. Rowe was a soldier who had been reported missing in action 3 weeks before the picture was taken, and it was taken near the same spot where the picture was taken. If it was true, the picture would have shown a man who shouldn't have been there, and he probably wasn't even living when the picture was taken. That information made the picture go global. Historians wanted to look into it, while paranormal researchers said it showed that there were restless souls on the battlefield. It was said that even the Pentagon asked for copies to look over internally. but the message was never made public. The slight glint of something metallic close to the face and the strange misty edges that couldn't be explained by weather or camera flare only added to the mystery. A simple zoom-in turned into a nightmare when analysts uncovered something impossible behind the soldier's shoulder. Something not human. When experts zoom in, as technology got better, the strange Vietnam picture from 1965 ended up in the hands of a modern investigation team. These people weren't ghost hunters, they were experts in digital archaeology, which uses images and light to find hidden things. Dr. Hannah Nguyen was a war photography historian, Eli Turner was a forensic imaging expert, and Major Robert Mills was a retired veteran who had been to Vietnam and now studied military photography. Their simple goal was to use science from the 21st century to solve a mystery from the 51st century. They tried to show things that the naked eye couldn't see by using tools for higher clarity, spectral layering, and light frequency filters. The first tests were so clear, it was hard to believe. It was very easy to see the plants, the soldier's stance, and even the sweat marks on his clothing. But then there were shadows, which were the first clue that this picture wasn't normal. One shade behind the trees didn't look right. Its shape was bent in a way that didn't match any natural angle. It looked like it belonged to someone or something else. The team talked about its cause. Some people thought it was just a harmless reflection from the metal gear, while others said it could be lens flare or double exposure. However, the curve was too clear and planned. The shadow, which was just a few inches away from the soldier, looked like the shape of a hunched figure. The strange thing became more obvious when the researchers used edge detection filters. It wasn't just a blur. It had a shape, like an arm or shoulder. The team went back to the original negative to make sure the mark wasn't caused by damage or dust. It had always been there. It looked like every time they took off a layer of the picture, something new was revealed. They weren't finding a broken picture. They were finding a story that was hidden in it. Along with the soldier, something or someone had been caught that no one had seen before. The more they zoomed in, the stranger it became. Near the soldier's left arm, high-resolution scans showed what looked like faint human features. A blurred mouth, an eye socket, and a part of a cheekbone, barely visible but clearly organized. Some doubters called it pareidolia, which means seeing faces in random shapes. Some people weren't sure, though. When the team used infrared spectral imaging, they saw more details. Behind the leaves, there were geometric shapes. They were not natural. They were perfectly lined up and looked like narrow poles or some kind of frame. This made me think of a man-made structure hidden behind the trees, which, according to the 1965 terrain maps, shouldn't have been there. That was the first real difference. Historians knew that the area wasn't being built on. It was a battleground. There were no bunkers, buildings, or other known sites where that picture was taken. If the building was real, it made people wonder about scary things. Could the picture have shown part of a military base that wasn't made public? Or even worse, proof of a secret experiment that no one was supposed to see? There were many possible answers, ranging from the reasonable to the scary, but the picture wouldn't give a clear answer. With each new improvement, more uncertainty was found. As experts from all over the world joined the discussion, it got more heated. Some people said that the scanners were making false artifacts by stretching or over-enhanced the images. Others said it was because the original film had become damaged after being stored for decades. Then there was a shock that put the doubters to rest. A newly discovered duplicate negative that had been stored in a lost military archive in Kansas was scanned on its own. The strange things showed up again, exactly where they had been before. There are no mistakes, image bleed, or dust marks. This time, another feature became clear. A thin, curved line that looked like a wire ran from the soldier's ear down. Everything changed with that one line. It wasn't part of normal battle gear. It seemed more like a contact wire, the kind that goes to a headset or microphone. At that time, ground troops didn't use that kind of gear very often, especially on a normal patrol. Some people started to think the soldier might have been in a secret reconnaissance unit that was trying out new audio or surveillance gear. Others went even further and said the face behind him might be that of another agent. But it was blurry because they were moving or hiding. The picture no longer looked like a simple snapshot from the fight, no matter what. It looked like a sneak peek at something secret. The experts all agreed on one thing by the end of their investigation: the picture was real. Its oddities weren't caused by tampering, editing, or mistakes in the picture. Many images showed that every shadow, face, and faint wire was in the frame from the start. Still, there is no public record of such an operation or its tools. The mystery grew stronger in the silence. The creepy old picture from 1965 had turned into a secret message from the past, full of questions about what really happened that day in the jungle. As the experts looked at the improved pictures, they became more and more uneasy. That soldier didn't seem to know what was going on. He was calm and almost stopped in time. Behind him, something watched him through the trees. No one saw this coming. The picture now told a story about technology, secrets, and the supernatural. If that soldier was wired and there was really someone else's face behind him, then maybe this picture doesn't just show a soldier. It could have caught a secret that wasn't meant to be seen. Who took the picture? The most important question about every secret picture is who pressed the shutter button. Researchers started to follow the photo's history to figure out what was going on with the 1965 Vietnam picture. An old film log marked Batch 7A, Reconnaissance Imagery, 1965, was found in a military archive. It was the first hint. There were several negatives from the same roll inside. They all showed troops on jungle ridges close to Da Nang. But it wasn't the scenery that stood out. It was a sign that said Top Secret Recon Unit, Tiger Force, in worn-out red ink. That name made the probe go off the rails. The Tiger Force was a real group that caused a lot of debate because it was accused of doing secret operations and secret tasks during the war. If the strange picture was in their batch, it wasn't just a chance snapshot. It was proof from deep inside a secret operation. In order to put together the schedule, researchers had to clean up the trail. Some copies of the picture were labeled psychological ops, while others were just marked unknown. From war historians to picture restorers to private collectors, it had changed hands many times over the years. The metadata for that trip disappeared somewhere along the way. No one could say for sure who took it or why it was marked differently than the others. People lost track of who had what, which leaves more questions than solutions. But as the police dug deeper, it became clear the picture wasn't lost by accident. The file had been put in the wrong place on purpose, like someone wanted it to be hidden. It was a big step forward when a faint note was discovered on the back of a contact sheet that was attached to the same roll. It said, Hahat 47, Observation Post 0430 hours, report any strange things. Everything changed with that one note. Anomalies wasn't a common word used in the military for spy reports. That made it look like the camera was trying to catch something unusual. By following the handwriting, investigators were able to find a short list of military shooters who were stationed in the area at the time. One stood out, Staff Sergeant William Andrews, who was first thought to have taken the picture. But records showed that he hadn't turned in an official report for picture number 47, even though there was one for every other picture in his set. It seemed like the picture had been purposely left unidentified. Then, an unexpected link showed up. Researchers found references to Project Echo Mirage in Vietnam War files that were made public in 1988. Project Echo Mirage was an alleged psychological operations program that tested visual disorientation methods on enemy troops. It is said that the tests changed how people saw things in low light by using projected images, reflective equipment, and even basic holographic methods. Some researchers thought this was the military's first attempt at mind warfare, which means using sound, light, and images to scare people. That's exactly when the 1965 picture was taken. It's possible that the strange face in the background wasn't magical at all, but rather an early psyops test. The soldier in the picture wasn't alone, if that's true. He was being watched and maybe even used as a test subject. People became more interested in the idea when satellite and map overlays showed that the area where the picture was taken was marked as a restricted zone in 1965. No regular people were allowed to take pictures there. Clearance was only given to specialized groups that were linked to intelligence or psychological warfare divisions. That made me think of something scary. The soldier might not have been in the shot at all. It could have been recording the effect, getting a picture of how eyes responded to fear or illusion. If that were true, the creepy second face might have been caused by interference, a projected picture that was used to see if soldiers would say they could see things differently when they were stressed. In the meantime, military records showed that the man in the dress might have been someone else. There were a lot of names that matched the 25th Infantry's roster from that day, like Sergeant Bennett, Private Lewis, and Corporal Rowe, who had disappeared soon after the picture was taken. Later, independent experts called the families of these soldiers, but none of them recognized the picture. Uncertainty only led to more guesswork. Was there really a soldier? Some experts now say that the subject could have been a fake person who was used to doing tests in the field that made it hard to tell the difference between psychology and combat. Some people think he was caught in a test and didn't even know it. The most disturbing thing about the picture is still its purpose. Why would someone take a picture like that and then hide it for decades? Was it proof that a psychology experiment didn't work? A secret test of how to train people to fear? Or maybe a sting to see how people would respond when they found the picture years later? No matter what the answer is, one thing is for sure. This wasn't just a memory from the fight that was frozen in time. There was a message there for eyes that would one day find it. And if it really did have something to do with Project Echo Mirage, the scary question of who ordered it and how far they went is still open. What if soldiers who vanished in battle never truly disappeared, but left silent witnesses inside the photos they left behind? Stories behind disappearances. War has always left more than just wreckage behind. It also leaves stories that are hard to tell the difference between fact and fiction. One of the strangest things about battlefield pictures is that they sometimes seem to show more than war or smoke. They show thin lines, shadows, and shapes that look like ghosts that no one remembers being there. Photographers said they saw soldiers who were see-through standing among the living during the Civil War. During World War II, many soldiers said they saw familiar faces in destroyed cities or blurred shapes behind their fellow troops. Sometimes, the faces belonged to men who had died weeks before. These wartime picture mysteries made me wonder, are these bugs in the cameras, or are these memories that won't go away? There were a lot of soldiers who went missing in war who were never really gone. Their stories lived on in missing reports, lost dog tags, and faded family photos. In history, there are many examples of people who went missing and didn't come back for years, forgetting who they were. Some were found lost a long way from war zones, and others got home but couldn't remember their names. In one interesting case, a World War II pilot was found decades later in a town in another country. He spoke the language but couldn't remember his past. Families held on to old pictures in the hopes that new technology would finally help them find out where their loved ones went. Recently, anomaly and digital archives have helped solve some of these riddles. This shows that sometimes just one picture can end years of silence. An even bigger question lies behind these disappearances. How much can the mind take before it hides the truth from itself? Memory is changed by war. When soldiers are constantly scared, they often have memory gaps, where they forget whole days or people. Psychologists think this is how the brain protects itself from being hurt. The mind hides the awful things that happen, and it can even make up memories that aren't real. What if the face behind the foliage wasn't a ghost or a problem with the camera, but a broken memory that was caught on film? A picture of someone's mind trying to remember something it doesn't want to remember. There are times when photographs become quiet witnesses in war. Pictures can tell stories that words alone can't, even after the fights are over. Later, some pictures showed mass graves or camps that the government denied existed that were hidden crimes. Others showed long-lost units or secret tasks that were never meant to be seen. In this way, a camera doesn't just take pictures, it also records facts that the world isn't ready to hear yet. That could be what this 1965 picture did. It wasn't lying. It was just waiting for someone to notice. The blurred image of the soldier might not be supernatural at all. It might be a sign to something that was meant to be kept secret and has echoes in history. The shocking discovery. History can sometimes be seen through a single picture. When the strange war picture from 1965 showed up online again, one family said they recognized the face in the shadows. Their grandfather was a soldier in the Vietnam War who was reported as missing in action. They said it matched. There were a lot of striking parallels between people in family albums. They all had strong jawlines and eyes that looked like they were in pain. People compared old service photos, scrunched letters, and yellowed telegrams, which gave people hope that maybe, after all these years, the picture had caught more than a ghost. It had caught the truth. Detectives and genealogists were called in. They used modern tools for face recognition to compare the picture to old military portraits that were kept in archives. The results showed an unexpectedly high rate of matches, high enough to call for more tests. DNA samples from family members who were still alive were sent to be analyzed, and experts looking for clues in cold cases looked through old military records and POW files, but not everyone agreed. Skeptics said that memory, technology, and feeling could all lead to false beliefs, and that some archives were missing pieces that would make the case even more mysterious. It got even stranger after that. Reports came in from troops who said they had seen a lone soldier wandering around in the jungles long after the war was over. They talked about a man who seemed lost, avoided all touch, and vanished before help could get to him. Some said he looked a lot like the man in the picture, even though he was a lot older. It made scary thoughts come to mind. What if he never died? What if he was hiding and was living off the land, but he couldn't remember who he was or what his job was? When a more advanced scan of the original picture showed something no one expected, the story took a shocking turn. In the soldier's bag, there was a faint geometric shape, a rectangle that didn't fit with normal gear. Forensic imaging proved it wasn't just an item, but a sealed microfilm cassette, the kind that was used to store secret data during the Cold War. More digital improvement showed faint writings, including locations and bits of code. All of a sudden, the story went from being supernatural to being about spying. The soldier might not have been a regular infantryman at all. He could have been a secret messenger taking information without being seen. The experts were shocked. People who study history and have been intelligence agents have different ideas about whether this was part of a secret operation or psychological warfare. The fuzzy, ghostly face might have been an intended overlay, a secret signal put there by intelligence agencies to mark or hide data. Tech experts thought the picture could have been used as a digital encryption key, which is a way to hide secret information in pictures that look like they aren't important. If it's true, the soldier's disappearance wasn't a mistake. It was part of a secret plan to keep something much more important safe than himself. History may have buried the soldier, but the image refuses to fade, demanding answers no archive or expert can give. The photograph, that time, refused to erase. The strange picture from the Vietnam War in 1965 is now more than just a picture. It's a sign. It stands for every war question that hasn't been answered, every person who has died, and every secret that has been kept hidden. It makes people think of how quickly stories can fade away as time goes on, like the tomb of the unknown soldier. We'll never hear the voices, see the faces, or know the tasks that never made it home because of this one frame. Whether he or she is real or a figure of speech, the soldier has become a constant reminder of what needs to be done in history. We don't know much yet, but what we do know is strong. Experts agree that the picture was taken around the middle of 1965, close to the Central Mountains, where a number of secret units were active. Records show that the uniform, weapon, and other gear seen were standard issue for reconnaissance troops. The strange things, the faint second face, and the strange shadow on the soldier's pack, cannot be explained logically, even after many digital studies. Still, what we don't know about him, the photo's purpose, and whether the shape in the ground was really a data chip or just a chance, are more important than the facts. These unanswered questions bring up disturbing ones. Was the man a test subject or a spy who had secret information to share? Could the face in the bushes have been a secret message put there on purpose by someone who knew the picture would be kept? If the strange things were done on purpose, who were they meant to reach? Where facts are less clear and imagination takes over. The picture makes us feel like we're looking for truth through fog, where something important is just out of reach. There are effects that go far beyond one question. If it was possible to change photos or add secret layers like this in 1965, how many other war photos might hide more than they show? During that time, secret messages were often sent using microfilm and coded pictures. Now, historians are wondering if libraries all over the world hold pictures like these that hold hidden layers of data. As AI and scanning tools get better, experts are looking at old pictures again in the hopes of finding lost data or marks that were hidden decades ago. There are more themes than just ghosts in this story. There is technology, secrets, and how the truth was kept from view. And yet, there is something more human beneath all the research. It's not just about codes or plots in this story, it's also about memories. People in the story are still looking for solutions, and the faces we can't name but can't forget carry a lot of emotional weight. Like this picture, every picture from that time shows bravery, fear, and longing. That might be why the 1965 picture speaks to us so deeply. It shows how we both want to find meaning in loss and truth in mystery. Today, when we look at that soldier's picture, we're not just looking at a piece of history, we're looking into the mirror of history. Time doesn't get rid of secrets, it just hides them until we're ready to see them. Because history is still alive somewhere in that jungle frame, between the light and the leaves. It's just waiting for someone to finally listen. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.